So Dan Quinn's response to Friday night's abysmal preseason game, an inter-squad scrimmage, the Burgundy against the Gold, and plus, did we see Terry McLaurin chatting it up with Adam Peters? We sure did. Wonder what that conversation was all about. Let's get into all of this, shall we?
The Washington Football Maniacs.
And folks, you are here watching the Washington Football Maniacs, the channel that talks about nothing but Commanders football. And of course, my name is Greg. I have been the host of this now for, 4 years. As I said, we talk Commanders football. We will call them Redskins from time to time. As you can see, I'm still a proud Redskins fan. And I've been that way 40 plus years, and I don't see things slowing down from there. Anyway, if you like this channel, you've watched some of the content, and you're like, yeah, that dude's not so bad. I could probably listen to him, ramble on for a few minutes at least. Then please maybe consider subscribing to this channel, okay? When you do, hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. You do have to tell it to remind you of all of the videos being released. But with that said, let's get into it. So at first, Burgundy and Gold Day. Now, I don't remember, and I don't have the world's best memory, but I don't remember the Washington squad doing this last year. Maybe they did, and it just slipped my mind. But Dan Quinn has certainly brought a lot of what I consider like hype stuff to practice, really getting the guys fired up and wanting to really get into it and play and all this stuff. But I think this was definitely needed. It's what the doctor ordered, right? Because let's face it, that Friday night preseason game against the New England Patriots was just abysmal. It was just horrible. And so what do you do to answer that? You decide, you're going to put your team, you're going to put them against each other, and you're going to let them go at it. And I think that's what needed to happen. Now, I don't know exactly how the two teams were picked. I don't think it was necessarily starters against second, third stringers, but you certainly had Marcus Mariota on the white team, the gold team, I guess you would call them, and then the Burgundy team with led by Jaden Daniels. And just like everybody would have called it, Sam Hartman's squad is one who won that scrimmage 14-0. And I think they needed that, because these guys need as much actual football time. Practice is extremely important, but you need football, and you need to play football because that's the only way you get better at football, right? So, this is something he needed because not Marcus Mariota, but Sam Hartman really struggled in that preseason game. I did say in one of my past videos, I thought he kind of redeemed himself, but he did. He struggled quite a bit in that game, and from what I heard, he was kind of up and down in practice as well. So, he's kind of struggled. And right now, I would probably say if there is a battle in that third quarterback position, it belongs to Josh Johnson right now. But at the same time, we do need youth, and we need guys like Sam Hartman who could possibly be around for years to come. We would like for him to be able to get to the point to where he is able to come in and play for us if Jaden Daniels goes down. And so you want someone young and fresh like that. Now Josh Johnson is certainly a capable back, but he's also almost 40. And so that he's not going to be the future for the Washington Commanders in terms of depth. So, although I will say he's had, even though that he he's been in the league off and on for a long time. Those off years have probably kind of helped to preserve his physical fitness. So he probably could play on up until his mid 40s if he wanted to, because he's saved his body. But it is definitely good to have somebody like Josh Johnson to push guys like Sam Hartman. And I would like to see more out of Sam. Hopefully we will see some better play from him in the next preseason game. But yeah, I mean, I really like this idea of this burgundy and gold scrimmage. I think that's something that team needed. And that's another thing that I feel like that you can really talk about in terms of Coach Dan Quinn. He finds ways of motivating his players. He finds ways, different ways of being able to get them going, to get morale up, and just to make things more interesting and to keep the competition rolling as well. And I really think that is something that is going to fold to be truly successful for Coach Quinn, is the fact that he's like that. He's honestly, he's a player's type of coach, right? But he's not a pushover. He gets in there and he teaches, and he just motivates and mentors these guys. I mean, he was the best choice for this franchise, no doubt about it. Now, talking about, getting in there and firing guys up and leading and things like that, we saw Terry McLaurin talking to Adam Peters on the sidelines yesterday in practice. And then, all of a sudden, everybody is wanting to know, what are they talking about? Can we get some really good lip readers in here to see, so we can figure out, okay, what are these guys really saying? Maybe you could make out what Terry was saying, because his face was facing the camera as he was talking to Adam Peters. Couldn't really make out what Adam Peters was saying. But to me, I can see how this is actually really good news. If you're a Terry McLaurin fan and you're wanting him to get signed pretty soon, with the fact that those two guys are talking, and also the fact that we didn't see Terry McLaurin's agent walking around, I think this is really good news for Terry and for the Commanders, knowing that there's, he wants to be around his teammates, and I know that Adam Peters, I feel like he wants him around. And, you're hearing these things about, they don't want to pay Terry for his past accomplishments. They want to pay him for what he can do as he gets older. And I mean, honestly, you don't know. It's kind of weird, because how do people get raises? Well, they get raises other than cost of living increase, right? They get raises based on their accomplishments and their performance. They don't necessarily get raises based on what they're going to accomplish in the future, unless they're getting a promotion to a higher position and that they're expected to, perform at this level, to accomplish these tasks and things like that. But there's never been a raise that I know of that people get based on what you're going to accomplish in the future. It's usually based on what we've seen from you so far. Yes, you're worth this. And so it's kind of weird. I do think that ultimately the team does want Terry back. And I said it before that, and I said this, of course, last week, and I'm kind of repeating it this week. No, don't worry. It's nothing of me, predicting anything, but I'm just saying that to me, it makes so much sense to get his contract signed and extend it this week so that Terry can get in there, get some practice in, and actually play a little bit in the preseason game because it accomplishes a couple of things. Number one, obviously, it knocks off any rust that Terry McLaurin may have. It gets him into the flow of playing football again and gets him certainly into practice where he needs to be. But the other thing along with all of that is it gets his leadership back in there. And I don't think that a lot of us really realize how much of a leadership quality that Terry McLaurin has. We can't always base everything on the athletic point of view because there's a lot of intangibles that are just as important, in my opinion. Now, I think, in my opinion, what's also important with Terry is his leadership. Probably also, in that wide receiver group, but overall, for the team. We've seen some spirited pep rally type of speeches from Terry on tape in the locker rooms and things like that. So we know that he has it in him. And I think that that is one thing that is really missing from practice right now. And I think that's something that the Commanders desperately need. We certainly, a lot of us are very nervous about the rest of the wide receiver group, especially with the depth that played on Friday night. It was a horrible. It wasn't good. And you got Noah Brown who's out for an injury right now, and he hasn't gotten healthy again. Hopefully, Luke McCaffrey has gotten over his illness. I want to be able to see a 100% healthy Luke McCaffrey, see what he can do. Debo Samuel, not Debo Brown, Debo Samuel. We got to be able to. We want to be able to see what he can do as far as is he the Debo Samuel that really electrified the 49ers in the first few years of his career. And we want to see that. We want to see him do that with the Commanders. But, if you don't have a Noah Brown and Samuels is going to kind of be used as that gadget guy, kind of like what we thought, what was it, Curtis Samuel is going to be like. You still don't have a number one wide receiver. Luke McCaffrey is not going to be a number one wide receiver, at least not this year. So you have to have that guy. And Terry is that guy. I don't know who else. Some people have speculated on bringing in, some other guys that are big names, but maybe they're really honestly past their prime. There were rumors before about some sort of a weird trade, and I think it was with the Dolphins for Tyreek Hill. And honestly, Terry McLaurin wants to be here and the Commanders want him to be here. I think there was just maybe some feelings hurt because of the details, the details in the contract, certain things that I think Terry feels like the team should give him that they're not giving him. But we heard certainly there's some, there's some smoke surrounding the idea that both Terry and the Commanders are going to agree on a $28 million contract, $28 million per year. I don't know how many years. I'm assuming 3 or 4 at the very, very most, but probably closer to 3. And that deal could actually be done by Monday. I think that deal needs to be, if that's what's going to happen, let's get that deal done now, because you got a game on Monday night. I want to see him suited up and being able to play a little bit Monday night. So I think for all of that, get the deal done now. There's really no sense in stringing it out past this week. I just don't see how that really helps the team at all. Um, and furthermore, as far as helping the team, Dan Quinn also sent a message to the team after that performance on Friday night. There were several commanders who got cut, Hampton being one of them. And Hampton was a fifth round. Yes. He was a fifth round pick for the Washington Commanders last year, and he got cut after one game. And this really shows you, Adam Peters is like, he's taking it on the chin. He's saying, you know what? That was a bad pick. It just didn't fit, didn't work out. And I appreciated the fact that the Commanders let this guy go so he can get picked up by another team quickly. Very good. Very, bravo to Adam Peters and company and Dan Quinn for at least doing that quickly so that these guys have a chance to get picked up somewhere else. But this just kind of shows you that, and then they go out and they try out, what was it? I wanted to say it was like 14 players. And I think they signed a few, but they're trying to find the right depth. They're trying to find players that fit the mold, and they're going to keep finding that until they get it. But I tell you, Adam Peters is not messing around. He's not going to do the square peg in a round hole and just stick with who he's got because that's who he picked. We kind of saw that, I felt, with Ron Rivera. He picked his guys and he was going to play them no matter what. And those guys just really didn't work out. And, it took bringing in a new regime that's not going to, hopefully it's not going to have any loyalty per se in terms of, I'm not going to stick with this guy just because I drafted him last year. I can say that I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm going to make some mistakes in free agency. I'm going to make some mistakes drafting guys. But overall, we're going to hit on these guys more than we will miss. And so I think that's a sign of good things to come for the Washington Commanders. Cutting guys loose that you had this chance, you looked lost out there. And as much as you went through minicamp and all of that, the mandatory camps and hitting the training camp, you should be ready and you're still looking lost, which means you're not going to be good for us. And we haven't seen that in the past. In the past, it's like you have these guys who go through all of that and they talk up a big game and they're ready for this year. This is going to be their year. And then they get out there and they just still kind of look lost. They don't look like they've really, moved the needle. And then what happens? Nothing really happens. They just continue to, they stick with the team and then coach sends them out there to play. And it's more of the same thing. We saw that with Emmanuel Forbes. Benjamin St. Juste was really, he was honestly, he was one of the biggest culprits of that, I felt. And so finally we got a front office that is not going to waste time with the players who are just looking lost, who are just not getting it. They're going to get rid of those players and going to bring in other guys and see who's going to stick, who can mold well and gel well with this roster and the guys around them, the playbook and all that sort of thing. So altogether, I love the inter squad scrimmage idea. I think they need to do more of that. And of course, they'll have more scrimmages when they do the inter practice with the Ravens after this game for their last game of the season, of the preseason. You'll have more of that. And so it really gives them an opportunity to play football games outside of the 3 preseason games, scrimmages, things like that, it gives them enough of an opportunity to be able to hopefully have that football mentality and enough of that juice in them to where they're ready for the regular season. But I'm telling you, I know I sound like a mark for Terry McLaurin, and I'm not trying to be, but I am saying get him signed this week because I feel like he is. I will tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I may not have felt this way, but as it stands right now, I'm really feeling like he's the missing link. If we don't get him in there, it's not going to be a good thing for the Washington Commanders. Folks, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Smash that like button. I always say give it a like. Smash it. Smash it. Seems like that's what people say, and they get a lot of likes. I don't know. I probably got a dislike from that. But anyway, again, if you're enjoying this channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell as well. With that said, hope you enjoyed this video. We will see you in the next one.